16 years of obsession, how a good deed turned into a nightmare I couldn't escape. My name is Emma. I'm 28 years old, and I need to tell you about 16 years of my life that were stolen by someone I tried to help. 16 years of being stalked, watched and hunted by someone whose obsession with me escalated from uncomfortable to absolutely terrifying. 16 years that taught me that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is the most dangerous. If you love true horror stories about obsession, stalking, psychological manipulation, and the kind of real-world terror that keeps you looking over your shoulder, hit like and subscribe right now. Because what happened to me will make you paranoid about helping people. It will make you question every interaction. It will make you understand that some people's brains are wired in ways that society can't fix. That some obsessions don't fade, they only grow. This is the story of how I became the target of a 16-year obsession. This is the story of how I survived. Part 1. The Good Deed. It all started innocently enough. When I was 16 years old, my mother asked me to help a girl she knew who needed socialization. The girl's parents felt like she wasn't developing normal social skills. She was isolated, withdrawn, struggling with depression, everything a typical teenager struggles with times 10. I was always the type to help people, to be kind, to see someone struggling and want to lift them up. So when my mother asked, I said yes without hesitation. The girl I was asked to befriend was someone I'd actually babysat for a few years prior. I had sat for several families during that time, so it took me a moment to remember which one she was. When my mother told me, I was slightly hesitant because of the attitude she had when I first met her. But I was always open to helping other people in any way that I could. I began to get together with her every once in a while. I would invite her to small gatherings with some of my other friends, but only if there were other younger ones with us, like their little sisters or something. I was always in groups of people of various ages, usually around the ages of 13 plus, and always with both guys and girls. My older friends and I were sort of the big sisters of the group. So that's why we were always happy to have those types of get-togethers. We thought we were doing good. We thought we were helping troubled youth find their place in the world. She slowly opened up to me. She began to share with me that she was dealing with depression and often thought that she was unloved by her family and friends. She also told me that she had contemplated ending herself and was cutting. The reason I took to her more than the other younger ones is because I had dealt with those same exact thoughts and feelings when I was around her age. So I wanted to do my best to give her a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. I would give her some advice, anything that I thought would benefit her. When she felt that she could trust me, I tried to broaden her horizons, but things slowly would take a strange and eventually sinister turn. Part 2. The Change. Now when I would try to invite her to our usual get-togethers or social events, she seemed very standoffish. I was a little surprised, but not too much, because I knew how difficult things were for her. And it did take her some time to warm up to people. Eventually, though, she began to try and drag me along with her when she had one of her "I don't want to be here" attitudes. For example, we would go to the house of another friend of mine. There would be maybe 6 or 8 of us in total when we would watch movies or do something else. But as soon as we got to wherever it was that we were, she wanted to leave. She would pull me aside and say, "I don't want to be here. Let's go." At first I was kind. I would tell her, "Come on, let's just stay for a little while." If you still don't want to stay, we will leave." I soon learned that she didn't want to stay, even if we were all having a great time, no matter what the circumstances were. Eventually, she kept pulling me aside whenever we were in group settings, so I just eventually stopped inviting her altogether, because all she wanted to do was leave, no matter what. I mention this because it's another vital part of the story. It's what would come next. I would just spend time with her once in a while, just her and I, and that's when things started to change. That's when the obsession began. She began to call me on a daily basis. It started with 2-3 times a day, and eventually it got up to 7 to 10 times every single day. As I said before, this time in my life I was always extremely busy, so I wasn't always home. I had my own telephone landline because I was able to pay for it myself. I had an answering machine, not voicemail, because I was too cheap to pay for a feature I didn't need. Anyway, I would have to change the tapes way too often because of how much she would call, leaving message after message. She would leave messages like, "Where are you? Why aren't you answering my phone calls? Who are you with?" That was just a little too weird for me. Even when I told her that I wasn't always home until late in the evening or nighttime, and all she had to do was leave one message. As soon as I was home, I'd return all of the messages I had for the day. That didn't deter her from continuing to do this. Day after day after day. I began to get really annoyed, but stupid me didn't listen to my gut instincts. I kept telling myself, she just needs a friend. It's not her fault. Boy, would I soon learn that was just not the case. Part 3. The escalation. Eventually, I kind of drifted away from her for a bit. Not intentionally, just because things in life seemed to speed up, and I was even busier than before. I would have very few times that I could get together with a friend or two, possibly going out to eat, shopping at the mall, maybe even seeing a movie. But she began showing up wherever I was. And no, I didn't tell her where I was going or who I was with. Like I said, I had pretty much drifted away from spending time with her. We lived in a pretty big suburb, so it's not like it would have been easy for her to know where to find me. I began to get really creeped out because I thought it was way too coincidental that she was everywhere I was. When I would be doing anything recreational, she would just appear, out of nowhere. She even found out where I worked and what college I was going to, something that I never told her. She wasn't even in high school yet, so why was she at my college campus with her mother? It didn't make sense. This is not even the creepiest part. Yes, there is more to this story. When I was on break from college, I had the time to spend with my family and close friends. I did get together with her a couple of times, still not listening to the creeps meter that had been going off for months. That was so stupid. Well, things took an even more weird and unexplainable turn. She would ask to spend the night, and I didn't really do sleepovers anymore, since I was of age and pretty much leading my own life. But she was still a young one, so I would invite her once in a while to stay over. Somehow, and I have no memory of how this happened, but she wouldn't leave. It's like she slept over one night and then just never left. Trust me, there was definitely not an open invitation for her to stay long term. I told her that she couldn't stay with me because she had to have her own life, and so did I. She got very angry with me, and for several days she refused to leave. Thankfully, I was still living at home, and my mom had to step in and pretty much tell her bluntly to get out. She had a little temper tantrum that night, but she did end up leaving. Part 4. Moving away doesn't help. By this time, I'd been fed up with her irrational and erratic behavior. I was avoiding her like the plague. I didn't call her back. If she was somewhere I would duck into hiding, so to speak, and try to lose her in the crowd. That didn't stop her from increasing her strange behavior. Her family even did some things that I feel sort of helped her to stalk me more. Well, this is not something I am making up. This actually happened to me. She moved to a street around the corner from where I lived. No, that's not the scary part. Her and her family moved into a house which from her living room window she could see directly into our backyard, and from there you could see the window to my bedroom. Yes, that happened. I only know this because I found out where she had moved, and my mom was still friends with her mother, so I remember going over there once when she wasn't home. And when I looked out their living room window, I could see into our backyard. I could see my bedroom window from the back fence. We had a chain-link fence, so you could see everything. I got the chills when I saw that. When we got home, I informed my mom, who was so busy socializing that she didn't even notice. That's when my mother tried to talk to her mom and tell her about the situation. Her parents both ignored my mom's warning. My mom tried to ask them to talk to her about backing off. Well, that didn't happen. Things just escalated from there. Her mom even tried to convince me to stay friends with her and wanted to pretty much pawn her daughter off on me. I don't even remember what she said to try and convince me. I just remember saying to myself, "Okay, lady, you're just as nuts as your daughter." Part 5. The police at my door. It wasn't long before the most sinister and disturbing part happened. And this was the last straw. I was home alone one day. She was still living in the stalker house, so this had to be how she knew I was the only one home. I wasn't talking to her. I'd even changed my phone number and told my friends to absolutely not give it to her, which they respected and happily obliged. Anyway, as I said, I was home alone. It was maybe 10 a.m., and I was just getting up to take a shower and get ready to start my day. As soon as I get out of the shower, I hear the doorbell ring. I think nothing of it. Didn't go to answer the door. I always look through the peephole before I answer the door, something I still do to this day. I see several police officers standing there. I got a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, thinking something had happened to one of my family members. I answered the door. They asked me, "Are you Emma?" I answered, "No, that person doesn't live here." The officer then asks, "Do you have an identification with you?" Which I answered, "Of course. But it's in the back of the house. I have to go get it." "Don't mind if I come with you," the officer says. I just nodded in agreement. But I was totally confused as to why they're at my door and why they're asking me for my ID. The officer then proceeds to tell me that he has to come with me when I go into the back of my house. I just nodded in agreement, but still confused as to what is going on. So we go into my bedroom, I grab my ID, and I show the officer who I am. He just says, "Okay, thank you. Can we sit down for a moment and talk to you?" Of course I agreed, and motioned him back into the living room where the other officer had joined us. We sit down, and they tell me that they had received an anonymous phone call, that there was a young lady that lived at my address by the name of the girl that was extremely depressed and may have already taken her life. I just sat there for a moment in complete shock. I told them that she used to be a friend of mine, but that I hadn't talked to her in quite a while, but that she did not live there. They asked me if I had any contact information for where she was. Thankfully, I still had her info on hand. I then give them her contact information, telephone number, and home address. They thanked me for my time and left. I thought that was the end of it. Not by a long shot. Part 6. The truth comes out. After they left, I called my mom immediately. She proceeded to tell me to come to her workplace until I had to go to my classes for the day. I hightailed it and drove to her office. She owned the business. It was no problem for me to stay there for a few hours. I stayed there until I had to go to class, and then went on with the rest of my day. Although I was still shaken up a bit, the rest of the story is from a third-party perspective. All of my close friends knew about the situation by this time, because her behavior was way too psychotic for me, and I was going to do whatever I needed to, so I would be safe. I believe a few friends of mine and myself were at a coffee shop, one of those internet cafes from back in the day, and we were talking when another mutual friend walks in and comes right up to us, looks at me, and says, "I have to tell you something." I was like, "Okay, shoot." Apparently, a few days before, they had run into her, and they said she looked eerily exactly like me. My jaw dropped, and I asked, "What do you mean we in no way look similar? In no way, shape, or form? I mean, it wasn't like you would confuse one of us for the other." Well, she had apparently begun to dress very much like me, dyed and styled her hair like me, wore the same kind of bracelets I would wear. I had a bit of a thing for friendship bracelets back then, and just looked exactly like me. I was shocked to my very core. I had been on the phone with a couple of friends of mine. I had the three-way calling feature, where you could call two people at once and all talk to one another. One of the friends in the line had informed me that they had heard about why the report incident occurred. This is a few months after the fact. She had heard from another reliable and trustworthy friend of ours that the reason there was that call, this is going to blow your mind, is because she had called anonymously, saying that a young lady by that name lived at my home and was incredibly depressed. That's not the craziest part. The reason she did it is because she wanted the police to think I was her. She gave the police my physical description, and this is before she started looking like me, so that they would take me away to a psychiatric ward. Therefore, she could take over my life. How super crazy could she be? I don't know how she thought that my family and friends would allow her to do that, but this is how mentally unstable she was. Part 7. Freedom, then the online hunt. Now the timing for me was perfect. I only say that because I was getting ready to move away from the area, because I was starting a new job, and life had taken me in that direction. My family was moving away with me for obvious reasons. So we in fact did move away. It was the best thing to ever happen to me, because she just got worse and worse over time. She began to harass my close friends, trying to get my whereabouts, like my address, phone number, where I hadn't moved away to. They didn't give her any information, since they knew how psychotic she was. At one point, she even began to stalk the brother of one of her very close guy friends, just so she could try to intimidate him, to tell her where I was. He had to have his grandparents step in, because he wasn't of age yet. I have no idea what happened to that situation from there, since I had moved away by then, and the internet wasn't like it is today. Let's fast forward to 2012. My obsession stalking began around the year 2000, obviously. Since it's 2012, social media is a big thing, and of course I had a Facebook account. I didn't think of my privacy. because to me, all of that was long behind me, and I'd actually forgotten about her. One day I go to sign on and take a wild guess as to who tried to friend me on Facebook. My heart sank for a second. Then the first thing I did was delete the request and block her. Fast thinking. I had taken care of the eerie online encounter. I was wrong yet again. She began to have her friends message me, asking me why I didn't accept her request. Why did I block her? Blah, blah, blah. I blocked each and every person that contacted me, until the message just eventually stopped. Not quite to the end yet. The last run-in I had with her online was when she tried to contact me through every single social media account I had, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I blocked her, of course. She then proceeds to try and make fake accounts, using my photo and name. I thought, okay, little Miss Crazy, I'll fix your fanny. As you must know by now, I am more assertive and didn't take any kind of craziness from anyone. I had all the fake accounts closed by reporting them to all the social media outlets, but not before getting as much information as I could. I reported her to the proper authorities. Thankfully, I had documented everything that happened in the past, and I kept it all stored away. What can I say? I'm a pack rat. Once I get the reports out, the contacts stopped. I also changed my name that I use on every social media account that I have. Instead of using my legal name, I use an alias instead. This is one thing she does not know about me. No one, except for my immediate family, knows this little fact. I also put everything on super private and have set some super high security measures. Not one. Last fast forward. May 2016. I turned my phone on like I do every morning, and after my phone loads up, it says no service. I knew there had to be a mistake, so I called the phone company, asked them what's going on, why my phone had no service, since I'd just paid my bill. They looked on their system and proceeded to tell me that they had received a phone call a few hours earlier that morning from a young lady. They assumed it was me, I guess, and she said that she had a new phone and that the phone number needed to be transferred to this new phone. When they told her that the name didn't match on the account somehow, and I have no idea how she got them to change the name on my account from my name to hers. I have no idea what she wanted to accomplish by doing this, and even worse, how she got my number. I explained that this person was a long-time stalker and that I had reports to the police, that I have to be protected against her because she is capable of anything. So they asked me to go into their corporate offices so they could change everything back to its original state, as well as putting some security measures on the account so that this wouldn't happen again. Conclusion. 16 years later now since then. So far, I haven't had any more incidents. I'm absolutely on high alert, because if she was willing to wait 16 years and still wants to find me, for whatever reason, there's no way in hell I'm going to let my guard down. The only reason I didn't file a restraining order is because, as far as I know, she does not know where I live, and I want to keep it that way. However, if she thinks that I won't ever file one, if she does find me, she's got another thing coming. And to her, if you're listening somewhere out there in the darkness, I hope we never meet again. I hope you got help. I hope you found someone else to focus your obsession on. Someone else whose life to ruin. Because you stole 16 years from me. 16 years of looking over my shoulder. 16 years of being paranoid. 16 years of not being able to trust people. All because I tried to be kind. All because I tried to help someone in need. And that's the lesson I've learned. Sometimes helping people hurts you more than it helps them. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away. Sometimes you have to protect yourself, even if it means abandoning someone who needs help, because not everyone can be saved, and not everyone deserves your kindness. 3 times I encountered real predators. True stories of narrow escapes and second chances. My name is Michael. I'm 28 years old, and I need to tell you about 3 separate encounters with actual predators. 3 times that I came face to face with people who wanted to hurt me. 3 times that I should have died, but somehow by some miracle I survived. If you love true horror stories about serial killers, home invasions, stalkers who know where you live, and the kind of real-world terror that makes you realize your life can change in a single moment, hit like and subscribe right now. And keep listening, because these 3 stories will teach you that the most dangerous people are the ones you trust. The ones who seem normal on the surface. The ones who know your name and where you live. These are the stories of 3 encounters with evil. 3 stories that prove that sometimes the only difference between living and dying is being smart enough to run. Story 1. The Park Predator. 2 years ago, I made a decision that nearly cost me my life. I decided to take a walk through the park at night, alone, something I had done dozens of times before, without incident. Something that seemed completely safe and normal, but that night was different. I was enjoying the tranquility of the park when suddenly I saw something ahead of me in the shadows. At first, I thought it might be nothing more than a stray animal, a homeless person, someone sleeping on a bench. But as I drew closer, I began to make out what appeared to be a man. I grew nervous. Chills ran down my spine. Something about the way he was walking made me uncomfortable. There was a predatory quality to his movement, a deliberation, like he was hunting something. But then he walked under a lamppost, and a grin spread across my face. I knew this man. He was the father of one of my good friends, Lucy's dad. And we'd all spent many afternoons in the park together. Him, Lucy, and me. Just 3 people enjoying the evening air, talking about life, sharing memories. I put my previous fear aside and began to walk toward him again. My fear replaced with relief. "Hey, Mr. Castro," I called out. "It's me, Clarissa." "Clarissa, it's been so long since we've seen each other. How you been? How are your parents?" His polite inquiries were comforting. My fears from before began to subside. We continued to walk together, engaging in pleasant conversation and reminiscing on our past family adventures. I relaxed as we continued to walk, enjoying the late-night air. Despite this, the conversation soon took a turn for the worse and began to make me feel uncomfortable. "So, Clarissa, are you seeing anyone special yet?" he asked. "You know I'm always willing to give advice." He licked his lips and leered at me. "Thanks, but I'll pass," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Well, it's your loss," he replied. "Come, let me show you something." The implication was clear, but I was so caught off guard, so surprised, so in denial about what was happening that I hesitated. That hesitation nearly cost me everything. I had forgotten my previous fear, so I hesitatingly followed him down a dark alley, his grip on my arm tightening as he led me forward, tightening in a way that made it clear I wasn't leaving, not willingly, not easily. We eventually came to a stop. I looked around in confusion, not sure why we were there, not sure what he wanted. Suddenly, his hands were on my shoulders, pushing me up against the wall. His lips were on my neck, and I instinctively recoiled. "Help, somebody, please help me," I screamed, my voice echoing through the alley, bouncing off brick walls, disappearing into the night. "Shut up," he snarled. "It's too late. Nobody is out right now. Stop struggling or I'll hurt you." He began to tie me up, and I knew that if I didn't get free soon, this would be the end for me. This would be the night I disappeared. The night I became one of those missing person posters. The night my family received the worst news of their lives. With a burst of strength that came from pure survival instinct, I managed to break free, and I ran toward the park as fast as my legs would carry me. I could hear him cursing behind me, his footsteps pounding on the pavement, getting closer, then farther, then closer again. I hid in a bush, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I tried to remain silent, tried to control my breathing. I could hear him storming around, his footsteps starting as he ran through the park, searching, hunting. "Clarissa, come back," he called out. "I just want to talk." He was rummaging through bushes, moving through the park methodically, checking every hiding spot, getting closer to where I was hiding. Directly next to the public bathroom in the park, I was hiding in a bush. Barely breathing, barely alive in the psychological sense. All he had to do was look through the bushes I was hiding in, and I was finished. I stayed hidden, though. He was right next to me, and I clamped my hands over my mouth, trying my best not to move, not to breathe, not to exist in any way that would give me away. I could see him from my hiding place in the bush. His wild and scraggly hair hung limply from his balding head, his weird eyes greenish in the moonlight. The black dots in the center of his eyes darted to and fro, trying to find me, searching for his prey. His hulking form stood looming over the park like an omen of death, a harbinger of what would come if he found me. He walked off, but I could still hear him shouting out my name, calling for me to come out. "Clarissa, Clarissa." I grew quiet, and I knew he had gone for now, but he wasn't truly gone. He was still out there, still hunting, still planning. I crawled out from my hiding place and ran to my car, quickly getting inside and locking all the doors. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition, but I managed, and I drove away from that place, away from that nightmare, toward home. When I arrived at my house, however, I saw something that made me sick. Out front of my house, a figure stood, his eyes wild as he stared into my windows. The hair was unmistakable, and I knew in an instant that it was Castro. I cursed myself now for inviting him and his daughter over to my house before he knew where I lived, before he knew how to find me, before he knew exactly where I would run to. Backing my car into an alleyway before he could see me, I quickly dialed the police. "Hello, yes, please send help," I said, my voice shaking. "There's a man outside my house that I'm afraid of. He's been following me and trying to abduct me." I gave them the address, and they promised to be there soon. Looking out of my window, I saw Castro beginning to walk away from my house, his form becoming more and more mysterious in the night, disappearing into the shadows like he was never truly there at all. I waited patiently for the police, praying that he wouldn't get away before they got there. When they arrived, we looked around the area, but he had vanished, as if into thin air. After searching for his car, however, they found something that made my stomach churn. Inside the trunk, the police found women's clothing and bags full of trinkets, personal items, things taken from victims, things that meant something to women who were no longer able to claim them. The police quickly got a search warrant and searched his house. It was in the news a few days later. Several young women had been held captive in his house for years. 11 years, from 2002 to 2013. 3 women, 3 lives stolen, 3 families devastated. I couldn't believe I had nearly fallen victim to a serial abductor. A man who had perfected the art of predation, who had gotten away with the unthinkable for more than a decade. I shivered at the thought of how close I had come to being one of those poor girls, never seeing the light of day again, held in darkness, held in captivity, held prisoner by a man I thought I could trust. Story 2. The Escaped Killer. I've always heard creepy stories about serial killers and home break-ins, but I never actually thought it would happen to me. Last summer, before my semester exams were scheduled to start, I decided to go stay with my parents for a while. My dad was a district attorney. My mom was a politician. They were a match made in heaven. They were also very busy with work, as you would imagine. So they weren't always home. As usual, they had business to attend to that weekend. So I was left all alone in the house. It was great news. Or so I thought. That evening, I was watching a show on TV. Suddenly, the show was interrupted by a breaking news report. Notorious serial killer Manuel Ortiz, also known as Machete. Manuel has just escaped from prison. His whereabouts are currently unknown. Residents are advised to lock their doors and remain within their homes, at least till the next morning. The news then went on to show the picture of the psychotic serial killer that had just escaped. Just his looks were enough to make my blood curdle. He had tattoos inked all over his face, neck, and body. Even tattooed his eyeballs deep black to give himself a more demonic look. Platinum-colored grills lined the front of his teeth, and he had self-inflicted scars all over his hands. One for each person he had killed. My throat ran dry, and my thoughts ran riot as I imagined the possibility of him coming to our home, especially since my dad was the district attorney that put him away. Of course, that was after he had already killed, dismembered, and mutilated about 30 people with his famous machete. I wasn't going to take any chances. I triple-checked the doors and slammed the window shut before heading upstairs to hopefully do some studying. I left our dog Bruno on the living room carpet. That's where he liked to sleep. Safe. Protected. Or so I thought. I bolted the doors to my room and hit the reading table. I was so scared out of my mind. I had to speak to myself to stay sane. "Calm down, Lucas," I whispered. "Even if he did come here, there's no way he could get in." I intended to read throughout the night, but I dozed off 5 minutes after lying down. Later that night, I was awakened by the sound of water running from a faucet onto a sink. My drowsy eyes beamed at the alarm clock on the table. The time was 11:35. "Crap," I muttered. I must have left the water running. I would have just ignored the sound. But then I heard frantic barks. Why is Bruno barking? I asked myself, as I slowly walked down the stairs, one lethargic stride at a time. My feet felt like sandbags were tied to them. My vision was blurry. It was a miracle I didn't end up barrel rolling down the stairs. Suddenly, Bruno's barking waned into a whisper, like the moaning of a wounded animal. And then it stopped abruptly. "Bruno, Bruno, you boy," I whispered as I arrived at the foot of the stairs. "I'm here." But there was no response. At this point, my heart was beating fast, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. Suddenly, the lights went out, and everything was pitch black. "God, what's going on?" I whispered to myself as I flipped the light switches repeatedly. Luckily, I had my phone with me. So I turned on its flashlight and then made my way into the living room. "Is anyone here? Hello, Bruno, are you there?" I yelled out, begging for this nightmare to just end. Suddenly, I heard the window slam. The jolt it gave me was enough to drive sleep away from my eyes. "Is somebody there?" "Hello," I called out again, to no one in particular. Bruno was no longer in the living room. I walked toward the front door, and that was when I saw it. The locks were broken, and the door was wide open. I also noticed that other houses in the neighborhood had lights in them, so someone must have cut the power to my house, deliberately, intentionally, to plunge me into darkness. I made my way toward the basement door to check our fuse box. I arrived at the fuse box, which was right behind the basement door. I was shocked to find that it had been switched off. I obviously didn't do it. So I had no doubt that there was someone else in the house with me. I flipped the switch, and the lights came back on. "Oh, thank God," I whispered to myself. But just before I could breathe easy, I looked toward the kitchen. Standing right at the entrance was a man with a machete. A man who, without a doubt, was Machete Manuel. "Hola, cabron," he grunted from across the room, his distinct Hispanic accent unmistakable. "I just have one question for you. Is your father at home?" I was so petrified I couldn't say a word. I couldn't even move. "Are you deaf or something, pendejo?" he barked, and then he charged toward me. Without thinking, I slammed and locked the basement door, and then ran down the stairs. I heard the door shake and quake as Manuel tried to break it down, tried to smash his way through to me, tried to reach me before I could get away. I tripped over something at the foot of the stairs and crashed to the floor. My phone had also fallen out of my hand, and the light had gone out. I rose to my feet. The basement was dark, but after a few misplaced slaps across the wall, I was able to hit the light switch. And that's when I saw it. Bruno's lifeless body sprawled on the floor at the foot of the stairs. She must have been strangled to death, killed by this monster who had invaded my home. "Bruno! Oh, why is this happening?" I cried out. I could still hear his heavy footsteps stomping around upstairs, trying to break down the basement door, trying to reach me. I can't find my phone. Oh God, what am I gonna do? I panicked. Just then, I noticed the basement window. Without hesitation, without thinking about the consequences, I quickly crawled through it, and then ran over to our neighbor's house. I pounded on his door until he opened up. "You gotta help me," I gasped, my breath coming in ragged bursts. "The serial killer, he's at my house right now." The neighbor was the head of the neighborhood watch. So he gathered a few other men, and they went over to my house. Each man was armed with a shotgun and a rifle. When they got there, they found nothing but muddy boot prints and dirt stains. Afterward, they called my parents and the police. Not long after, we moved to a different house. It's been over a year now, and I still find it hard to sleep at night, especially when I remember that they still haven't caught him. Story 3. The Scream Killers. I'm 24 years old, and I'm a huge horror fan. Well, at least I used to be. To be honest, all my love for the genre disappeared in one night. You see, that night I was alone in my house. I had just moved in and still had a lot of unpacked boxes. It was a Saturday night, and I thought I would spend the evening watching a horror movie. But before I could choose one, I got a call. "Hello, Dina. Do you like horror movies?" a voice asked. I recognized the voice immediately. It was my friend trying to scare me. "Dude, really, what's wrong?" I replied. "My experience with you is not intimidating at all," I continued. "Second, Do you really want to scare me by imitating Scream? There are literal parodies of that movie. You should have more respect for someone who knows where you live. Mr. Psycho, I regret to inform you that we are now in the 21st century, I said sarcastically. I would be disappointed if you didn't even know my birthday. I'm going to keep looking for a movie. You're better off trying to scare a boomer. Bye. Once I cut him off, I laughed a little under my breath. I've got to admit it. It didn't scare me, but it did entertain me. What I didn't know was that my fun was about to end. Suddenly, a stone smashed against my glass window. I ran to the window, but there was no one there. And as I approached the stone, it had a message on it written in marker. Hello, listen to me. No, I said out loud. Listen to me. You cut me off again and I'll break you in half. Understand? The voice came from outside, from somewhere in the darkness. What do you want? I yelled back. You said you knew Scream, didn't you? You know what I want. Fame. Well, you're looking for it with the wrong person. Get out of here. I'll call the police. I said. Do you think I'll give you time to do that? Where are you watching you, Dina? Watching you walk nervously in that blue t-shirt. Hearing this, my first instinct was to run as far as I could. I headed toward my room, but the man's voice stopped me. Are you sure about that? He might be there. Suddenly, I stopped. Was he telling me not to go? Or maybe he was telling the truth. Then he was really there. I decided to ignore my room and go upstairs. I went into the guest room and hid. The place was full of boxes. Darkness surrounded the whole area, and it was impossible to see anyone. What a curious place you chose to hide, Dina. The voice echoed through the house. I know you're here. You don't know where I am. You think you're clever. But you hid in the most predictable place possible. Dear friend, another voice said. Oh yeah, if you are in this room, then how did you know how I was dressed? Don't you remember the movie, Dina? It's never just one killer. The man was in front of me, brandishing a huge knife in his hand. The design was similar to Scream, but this one was scarier, more real, more deadly. The man approached me slowly. His steps were terrifying. This man knew he had this situation under control. I was nothing more than prey. I threw a box at him to stop him and ran for the door. Instead of running, I waited behind the door, and when he came out, I hit him with it. I ran toward the exit. But before I got there, the door opened. There was another man with a different mask. But similar to that of his companion, I turned around and saw that the other man was coming down the stairs. I was locked in, and my only way out was the basement. I ran and hid under the stairs. While one of them came down, the man began to walk slowly, inspecting every part of the basement. Slowly. He knew I was here, but he couldn't find me. I thought about trying to hit him, to defend myself, but because of our physical difference, I knew that would not end well. But once the man got to where I was, he stopped and turned around. The stalker started looking for the basement lights. This was my chance to escape. I pushed him and climbed the stairs, locking him in as soon as I could get up. But that wasn't the end of it. Good job, Dina, a voice called out. As soon as I turned around, the other man lunged at me and tried to hit me. I managed to dodge him and started to run, but he was faster than me. He grabbed me by the hair and threw me against the counter, hurting me with the kitchen stuff. I have to tell you the truth, Dina, he said, his voice calm and measured. My friend is not the smartest of the bunch. I'll deal with him later. What's a great movie without a betrayal, right? It's just a movie. And unlike a movie, it doesn't have to end. I'll be famous. I'll get letters. People will recognize me. I'll be bigger than Manson. He was speaking like a madman. Like the horror movies he idolized had become his reality. I wasn't going to let this psycho hurt me. During his speech, I reached out my hand to see what I could grab, to defend myself, and as luck would have it, I found something perfect. The cooking spray. You wish. He may have had a mask, but he still had an opening for me to see through. I poured oil spray through this opening, and as I expected, the man went berserk, swinging his knife sporadically. Unable to hit anyone, I rammed him as hard as I could, and while he was on the floor, I ran for the exit. On the way, the basement door gave way, and the other man started chasing me from behind. But this chase didn't last long. A police cruiser was outside my house. As soon as they saw the man chasing me, the officer stopped him. I was finally safe. I warned them that the other criminal was inside the house, but they couldn't find him. He'd escaped through the back door, but he didn't get far, as his partner ratted him out. Both of these guys were old neighbors, and they really had intended to murder me. They were both convicted of attempted murder. Conclusion: lessons learned. These 3 stories have taught me something that I wish I had never learned. Evil doesn't look the way you think it does. It doesn't come with warning signs. It comes from people you know, people you trust, people who seem completely normal on the surface. I learned that the park is not always safe, that your home is not always secure, that the people you invite into your life can become your worst nightmare. I learned that sometimes trust is the most dangerous thing you can give someone. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes the only thing standing between you and tragedy is paying attention to that voice in your head that tells you something is wrong. Trust your instincts, lock your doors, and never ever assume that someone you know can't hurt you. Because they can, and sometimes they will.